Oh no, what do I do? Wait, money! Yay, I'm rich!
Mmm.
Most people think all money decisions are made logically. They're not. Your brain is hardwired to fear loss far more than it values gain. This is called loss aversion, and it controls billions of financial decisions every day, often silently. Loss aversion explains why people hold losing investments too long, why they avoid risks that could make them rich, why they panic sell when the market drops, and why a small financial loss feels emotionally worse than an equally large gain feels good. It's not weakness, it's biology. Let's start with the science. Loss aversion comes from evolutionary psychology. Thousands of years ago, losing resources, food, shelter, tools meant death. Survival required a brain that feared loss more than it sought gain. Winning was nice, but survival depended on avoiding loss. This wiring hasn't disappeared, even though modern money doesn't threaten life or limb. The brain reacts as if it does. Losing $100 triggers a stronger emotional response than gaining $100. Even knowing it's irrational, this bias explains why most people are financially reactive instead of proactive. They focus on avoiding losses instead of creating gains. It's why someone might refuse to invest in the stock market, even when the long-term upside is massive. They feel the pain of potential loss more than the excitement of potential gain. And here's where it gets interesting. Loss aversion is amplified by emotional attachment. The more you identify with your money, your sense of security, status, or self-worth, the stronger the pain of losing it. Losing money doesn't just affect your bank account. It attacks your identity, your sense of competence, your perception of control, your emotional stability. And once the brain experiences this pain, it overcorrects. Instead of making rational decisions, you make emotionally defensive decisions. You hold on to bad investments, you avoid opportunities, you panic sell good assets, you oversave or underspend, all because losing feels worse than winning feels good. Now let's dive deeper into how this manifests in everyday life. Imagine you invest $1,000 in the stock market. The market drops 10%. You lose $100. Emotionally, your brain treats that $100 as a massive hit. Even though $100 isn't catastrophic, even though long-term projections show growth, the emotional pain triggers fight, flight, or freeze behavior. You panic. You sell. You stop investing. You avoid risk. Contrast this with a gain of $100. Your brain barely notices. The happiness boost is temporary. The pain of loss dominates your perception. This imbalance is why most people underperform financially. They're constantly reacting to fear rather than optimizing for long-term growth. Another layer of loss aversion is social comparison. Seeing others succeed financially triggers fear of falling behind. Your brain interprets their gain as your potential loss. And suddenly, your decisions aren't about opportunity. They're about protecting ego and identity. This is why people often make impulsive financial moves, selling winners too soon, chasing trends, or avoiding investments altogether. Loss aversion also explains why people prefer certainty over opportunity, even when certainty is worse financially. A guaranteed $50 today feels safer than a 50-50 chance to win $150 tomorrow, even though the expected value favors the risk. Emotionally, the brain prioritizes avoiding pain over maximizing reward. Here's another fascinating twist. Loss aversion is stronger in situations tied to identity. If spending money reflects your values or lifestyle, losing that money hurts even more. If investing aligns with long-term goals that define your self-image, losing a portion of that investment feels like a personal failure. And here's the kicker. Loss aversion compounds over time. People who fear losses tend to underinvest. They avoid opportunities. They stay in safe but slow accounts. Meanwhile, small losses could have been short-term. Medium-term gains are ignored. Long-term growth is missed. Your brain's obsession with avoiding pain silently blocks wealth creation. So how do you escape this trap? Step 1. Reframe losses. Loss is not failure, it's information. A small loss tells you what works and what doesn't. It's a signal to adjust strategy, not a verdict on competence. Step 2. Focus on long-term perspective. Short-term losses feel massive because your brain overweights immediate pain. Zoom out. Look at long-term growth potential. Step 3. Decouple identity from money. Your self-worth is not your balance sheet. You're not your investment returns. Emotional distance reduces the pain of loss. Step 4. Use automatic, system-driven decisions. Investing regularly through automation reduces the emotional highs and lows. Step 5. Embrace small, calculated risks. The more you expose yourself to minor, manageable losses, the more your brain learns that loss isn't catastrophic. This reduces the power of loss aversion over time. Step 6. Track gains visually. Seeing compounding growth creates emotional reward that balances the pain of loss. Now let's talk about why loss aversion is responsible for common financial mistakes. Holding losing stocks too long, selling winning stocks too soon, avoiding new investments entirely, over-insuring or hoarding cash unnecessarily, chasing safe but low-return strategies. All of these are symptoms of a brain wired to avoid pain at all costs. Loss aversion is powerful, invisible, and persistent. It explains why high intelligence or financial knowledge isn't enough, because even experts fall victim. Even the richest people experience emotional pain with losses. The difference is how they manage it. They detach. They systematize. They reframe. They take calculated risks. They leverage compounding emotionally and financially. And here's the ultimate takeaway. Wealth isn't just about making money. It's about retraining your brain to see loss as part of the process, not a personal attack. When you understand loss aversion, you stop reacting emotionally. You start making decisions strategically. You start thinking long-term instead of short-term. You start letting compounding work its magic while your peers are frozen in fear. Here's the next layer most people never realize. Loss aversion shapes not just investment decisions, but every money-related choice you make. Think about it. Even small purchases trigger it. You buy a coffee every morning. You skip the fancy brand to avoid losing money. You hesitate to upgrade software or tools, even if they increase efficiency. You overthink buying educational materials or courses that could increase income. Every time you avoid spending for fear of loss, your brain is reacting to the emotional pain of potential loss, not the logical benefit of future gain. Loss aversion also explains why people stay in financial situations that aren't optimal. They avoid changing banks because switching feels risky. They keep underperforming accounts because moving feels like admitting a mistake. They avoid negotiating salaries because losing face feels worse than missing income. And yet the very behaviors designed to protect them from loss end up creating long-term losses. It's a paradox. Another fascinating layer, loss aversion, is magnified by scarcity mindset. When money feels limited, the brain reacts to losses as existential threats. Even small losses feel catastrophic. Even rational gains feel insufficient. This is why people under financial pressure often make decisions that seem irrational from the outside. Impulse spending, overreacting to market drops, panicking during downturns, all of this is amplified when the brain feels scarcity. Here's a psychological trick most people overlook. The brain overweights immediate loss and underweights long-term gain by a factor of roughly 2 to 1. That means losing $50 today feels roughly as bad as gaining $100 feels good. This asymmetry drives behavior silently. It's why the emotional sting of a small financial mistake can overshadow years of consistent saving. Now let's examine real-world consequences. People avoid investments with volatility, even though the long-term expected return is higher. People over-insure their cars, homes, or lives, draining money that could compound elsewhere. People chase safe returns in savings accounts while inflation erodes wealth. People delay entrepreneurship or side hustles because the risk of initial loss feels intolerable. All of these behaviors are perfectly rational emotionally but financially disastrous. So, how do you fight it? Step 1. Name the bias. When you notice fear of loss driving a decision, label it. This is loss aversion talking, not logic. Step 2. Reframe outcomes. Instead of seeing a potential $100 loss as pain, see it as an experiment or a learning opportunity. Step 3. Practice small, controlled losses. Invest small amounts in new ventures. Take minor risks in safe ways. Your brain learns loss isn't fatal. Risk is manageable. Step 4. Focus on cumulative gains, not individual losses. Track long-term progress. Celebrate compounding growth. When gains accumulate, they offset the emotional impact of minor setbacks. Step 5. Detach identity from money. Your self-worth is not tied to every financial outcome. Loss feels less threatening when you're not personally attacked. Step 6. Automate decisions. Set up recurring investments, retirement contributions, and savings. Your brain doesn't have to weigh every choice emotionally. Step 7. Visual reinforcement. See your wealth grow visually, charts, dashboards, apps. Your brain interprets growth as emotional reward, balancing the pain of small losses. Now let's explore a powerful real-world story. Warren Buffett famously says, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful." Notice the psychology here. Buffett isn't just assessing numbers, he's exploiting loss aversion in everyone else's brain. When others panic sell, their fear of loss dominates. When others hoard cash, their fear of losing dominates. Buffett, emotionally detached and identity-aligned, acts logically and consistently gains advantage. This is proof that mastering emotional responses, not just knowledge, creates financial power. Another key insight: loss aversion interacts with social comparison. When you see friends or colleagues gain wealth, the brain interprets that as potential personal loss. You might feel envy, fear, or anxiety. Even if you're financially stable, your subconscious reacts as if you're losing ground. This is why social media can be dangerous for financial decision-making. It triggers loss aversion emotionally, even when there's no real loss. Now here's the breakthrough moment most people miss. Loss aversion is trainable. By repeatedly exposing yourself to manageable losses, reframing setbacks, and reinforcing identity-aligned behavior, the emotional power of loss diminishes. Your brain learns that short-term pain doesn't threaten long-term security. And here's the final insight: the people who build lasting wealth aren't the ones who never experience loss. They are the ones who understand, anticipate, and manage the emotional impact of loss. They make decisions with awareness, not reaction. They detach ego from money. They let compounding work. They accept small setbacks as part of the journey. Because once you master your emotional response to loss, the game changes. You stop reacting emotionally. You start making strategic decisions. You start letting opportunities compound while others freeze in fear. And that is the ultimate leverage point in wealth psychology. In the next video, we will explore the comparison trap, the hidden cycle that makes people feel like they're losing even when they're winning, and why it silently drives emotional spending and financial stress. Once you understand the interplay of loss aversion, identity, and social comparison, you'll start seeing financial behavior everywhere differently, and you'll know how to control it before it controls you.